A wiser man than myself once said, "Make the videos you wish to watch yourself." Well, the guy tries to do that most of the time. That's why he's the guy.
What's up YouTube? We got a whole array of camera sensors here, small to big. The Fimi Palm and the Fimi Palm 2. Should you actually invest into the system? Can you even call it a system? We're going to go through the pros and cons of both these cameras and if you should spend your money on them. The DJI Osmo Action, a little bit more expensive than the other two and not a bad camera. I often recommend this to people in the comments and not sure if they'd actually buy it or not, but it's a good camera. The DJI Pocket 1, a good camera in 2020 and in some ways still better than the DJI Pocket 2, especially in the colors. But anyway, let's move on. The optical image stabilization of the Sony Fdrx3000. I think this thing's discontinued. If you can get your hands on one, it's worth buying. It is a little bit more expensive than the DJI Pocket, I believe it is. The Pocket 2 comes with a lot of different tools and things you can use to make videos with. Creator Combo Kit gives you an external microphone. It's pretty sharp. It's not too bad in low light. But it is a little bit expensive. If you put a little bit more money in, you can get an APS-C size camera, which is probably a lot better than the DJI Pocket 2, but comes with its own pros and cons. So we're going to go through that today. And what about full frame sensors, which is what I'm filming on right now, the Sony a7S III. Is it worth spending your entire retirement fund on this camera? We're going to talk about all the different things today and go out into the field and see what we can get out of these damn things. So let's get started. Okay, so first is the batch of small, affordable, small sensor sized cameras, which is the Fimi Palm 2. I've thrown in the Fimi Palm 1, which is, just for old time's sake, it's actually a pretty good camera. It's got quite good color science. And the Osmo Action, which is, believe it or not, similarly priced. Is that the right word? Similarly priced to the other two. So why wouldn't you consider it? Well, you should. So let's give these three a test. So let's look at the image quality on the Fimi Palm 1. Okay, this is the Fimi Palm 1. I mean, the colors look pretty good actually initially. The Fimi Palm 1 did have a lot of problems. It's not that reliable to be honest, but it looks okay. I've kind of had to switch to low quality mode on both the Fimi Palm and the Fimi Palm 2 because they keep giving me that low speed grade card error, so that's a bit annoying. I will say this is what you get for low cost cameras. If you're talking about the Fimi Palm 1 and the Fimi Palm 2, this is what you can expect. Issues. This is what you can expect from the Osmo Action. There should be a lot of wind hitting this lav mic at the moment, so is it actually working? But Osmo Action, really nice. I mean, look at that field of view. You can take it almost anywhere and you've got steady footage, and people think you need a gimbal, but this thing's electronic image stabilization, man. You can't get any better than this. Really super fun camera to have, and I often use this thing in my vlogs. It's really good, and as an affordable camera, you can't really get any better than this. So this is the Osmo Action, and as you can see, it's a pretty smooth ride with that rock steady. If we compare the colors to the Fimi Palm 1, we'll see it's pretty much the same, and the Fimi Palm 2 looks a little less saturated. I wonder if that's that new Sony sensor they're using. So what are the pros and cons of actually buying into this system, the Fimi Palm system specifically, not so much the Osmo Action? Pros wise, it's cheap. Number two, I can think of, it's a gimbal, so it is stable. 3, it's wide, it's 128 degree field of view, so it's quite wide. You're looking at a 20mm lens right now. These are like 15mm, I'd say. I think they're 14mm even, so they're pretty wide. What about the cons? Well, let me just add one more pro in that the Fimi Palm 2 has a built-in mic jack, so you don't need to buy the external microphone adapter from the Fimi Palm 1. I still think the colors are better, but they could fix that in firmware. What are some cons with the system? Reliability, I'd give it like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. I never know when I'm going out if the sound is plugged in, if it accepted the external microphone. If I've got the right setting, it's frustrating because you don't know the footage you're going to get for the entire day, if it's going to be usable, and that's what annoys me. It's also kind of cheaply made, and some people have complained in the comments and said, no, theirs didn't work, and there was some strange thing where the gimbal started like vertically, and I'm like, well, I don't think mine does that, but that doesn't sound good, and I apologize, but I don't work for Fimi Palm. I'm just telling you, these things aren't that reliable. So pros and cons of the middle one, the Osmo Action, well, it's pretty cheap. It's like $230 US, which, it's a little bit of money, but it's doable. You could get away with buying that. You can use the Sonova 3.5mm audio adapter, as you can see, into the RODE Wireless GO, so you've got external sound. The interface, brilliant. Top pro of the thing is the interface. I kind of get annoyed sometimes by the button and switching back and forth, but you can just go screen switch, much like the GoPros, and it'll switch the screen. It's kind of reliable, like 80% of the time, I'd say. But this is a pretty good system for not that much money, and I'd buy that over both of these Fimi Palm cameras. If you really need a gimbal, probably get the Fimi Palm 1. I just want to say something. I was walking on those rocks over there and there was a little bit of moss. I mean, it's not like I walk on rocks every day, and there was a little bit of moss and I slipped. I had 2 camera tripods in my hand. I had the Sony a7S III. It nearly went into the pond. And then when I was walking up the rocks again, it fell out of the tripod and almost went into the rocks again. It's almost a $7,000 camera system down and dead and finished. I'm not even exaggerating. That was the scariest 1 minute of my life. Another con with the Osmo Action is that since it has built-in electronic image stabilization, it uses some of the sensor as like a buffer to do the calculations when you're moving it around. And that's why you lose a little bit of your image quality, and that means you get a little bit more noise in low light as opposed to the DJI Pocket 1, which has the exact same sensor, but it's a gimbal, so you don't need to crop in because there's no electronic image stabilization. You don't need to crop in because there's no digital stabilization on that camera. But Osmo Action, man, a $230 camera. Rumors are that there's a new Osmo Action coming next month, March. I'm not sure if you'll watch this video by March, but yeah, March, there's a new Osmo Action come. Osita LV, or whatever the guy or girl's name is, they broke it yesterday. So that's pretty interesting. 1-inch sensor, DJI. Will you give us a 1-inch sensor this time? I won't be holding my thumbs. I just dropped my DJI Pocket 1 because the stupid clamp from the GoPro broke, and now the damn battery, it came out. I think I can just push it back together, but you can see it's kind of out. We'll see if it works. I should just go home. So the microphone wasn't on the DJI Pocket 1, so I'm filming this again. I told you I'm having a bad day. So this is the Sony Fdrx3000, and I'll probably end up using the Pocket 1 sound with the external microphone, because the sound on the Sony FDR, the external microphone, the preamps are too high. It's really distorted. It's just not good. But the image quality is really good. One of the cons of this camera system is it's kind of expensive. It's like $460, I think it was, in Australia. I think it's about $350 in the USA. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure the prices are about that. The DJI Pocket 1 image quality is fantastic, I must say, and I just like the color science. In many ways, the colors on the Pocket 1 are way better, and a lot of people would agree with me on this, than the DJI Pocket 2. It's not as sharp, but I mean, what is sharpness when the colors look shit? That doesn't help anything. If you look at the Sony and the color science, is that lens dirty? The Sony and the color science look really good, and it's got electronic image stabilization, which means the little sensor is sort of like moving along as you walk. It's not as stable as a gimbal, and it's not going to be as stable as maybe digital image stabilization, but it does a pretty good job. Hey John, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Make those clouds look a little bit cinematic.
Okay, what color?
Maybe like a red, you know, color of love.
You got it.
Maybe give us some cinematic bars.
Cinematic bars coming.
Are we Netflixing right now? Netflix and chilling. Is this a good shot? Don't answer that. See, that's the thing about using a full frame camera. It is expensive, and I mean, you get some benefits with this thing. It's probably the best camera system I've ever used. I can't even find a fault with it personally. Maybe it's just that it's expensive and you need to buy the lenses, and I don't have the best lenses, but yes, the zoom capabilities on some of these lenses, like I'm only using a Tamron, but just look how good that shot looks, I think. I mean, I haven't checked the footage, but it looks like it's well exposed. The little histogram thing is right in the middle, which means we're good. And we're using S-Cinetone right now, which apparently makes your face look better. It's going to be hard to do, but the S-Cinetone on this Sony a7S III should be matching up with the FX6 and the FX9 and all the cinema line cameras. It should match those a lot better. I think it's like similar to the Venice color science. So that's what's good about this camera, is you've got the ability to push around those 10-bit colors. You can recover some of those highlights. As you can see, you can actually change those colors. You can mess around with things. You could change the shirt. Let's just try to do that right now. John, change my shirt to something manly.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
It's black.
Black, I like black. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, you could do things like that. Just change it back, John. So you can do things like that on this kind of camera, and I mean, you've got that 4K 120, and in low light, it's a beast. So is it worth the money? Probably not. Probably not. I'm still going to pay for this thing. I'm still paying for this thing every month. It's crazy, and I have 3 lenses and I have to pay for those too, and I sold one of my old cameras, so this is a pretty good system so far, the Sony a7S III. So this is the DJI Pocket 2 and this is the Sony Fdrx3000. I've never compared these two cameras. I'm wondering if that Sony is going to just look better. Does it look better? Is the color science better? I'm hoping not, because you know, it's the cheaper, it's sort of the similar price, these two. The Sony has a smaller sensor, it's a 1/2.6ish or 1/2.5, it's smaller. The DJI Pocket 2, the color science makes you look a little bit weird, like make you look like a pig. I'm not sure why DJI does that, like pig skin kind of look. But is the Sony outdoing the DJI Pocket 2 in every single way? It could be. Let's not try die when I cross the road. It's quite dangerous. Anyway, is the DJI Pocket 2 outdoing the Sony Fdrx3000? I'm using the sound because I've got the do-it-all handle, so that's quite nice. Should be quite a lot of wind noise on this microphone. I hope it's rejecting a lot of it. It's probably not. And so the DJI Pocket 2 is 20mm. I don't have the wide angle lens with me. I don't usually bring it. It's just too much of a fuss to remember to bring it all the time. But 20mm is quite enough for me. Thank you very much. And 17mm on the wide angle of the Sony. Is that nice? I always remember, I haven't looked at the footage, I can't see any exposure. For all I know, this is horrible footage, but it usually looks pretty nice. How is that Sony at the moment? We're going forward, onwards on this electric skateboard, which is really nice for travel purposes actually. Whoa, there we go. It's really nice for traveling. That's what's good about the DJI Pocket 2, man. And a lot of people don't mention it, but it's reliable. It does work. It's got some quirks and some weird things, and colors look a little bit weird sometimes. I still think Sony should fix the tracking. It's shocking, but it is reliable. Every time you take it out, it works. You plug in a do-it-all handle, it just works. And that's what I look for primarily in a camera system. Obviously all the extras are nice, good colors and everything, but as long as it's reliable, like the Sony Fdrx3000 is. It's like a bird gang here. I'm kind of scared of the birds in Australia, to be honest. The other day I was attacked. Not even joking. You can't make this stuff up. I was walking down the street minding my own business and this bird was coming for my head. They swoop you, you know. I think it was a magpie, I'm not sure. Do you believe you're watching a drone right now? You should be. This is the new Mavic Pro 3 drone that I'm flying. Just believe it. Okay, so what about APS-C size cameras? Well, I'm trying to use the Lock 150 and it's pulling my shirt down, I apologize. So, how's the sound on this Lock 150, by the way, connected to the Sony? This is a Sony APS-C size camera system, and as you can see, it's pretty nice. It's got a little pop-up screen on the top. You can mount an external mic. It's got a 3.5mm audio jack. You can't monitor your audios. There's no output, but it's still pretty good. It's pretty small, even though it might look quite big to you. It's quite a small mirrorless camera. It's got interchangeable lenses, so that's quite a nice feature on this particular camera. But this is probably the next logical step if you were moving up from like an Osmo Pocket. They cost roughly about $1,000, I think, and you can get a kit lens. And as you can see, this kit lens has got a little bit of a zoom, which is quite nice. So what are some downsides with this camera system? Well, it's an 8-bit camera system, and as you might know, a lot of the old Sony cameras were 8-bit and they couldn't seem to break through into the 10-bit realm, but they finally did that with the A7S III, and that's what you're looking at right now. But this is a great camera if you're just starting out on YouTube and you've got a little bit of extra money and you want to get past the action cam world. This is great for a studio, and I used it for probably 100 of my videos. So all the past videos that you've ever watched on this channel were filmed using this camera, which is pretty cool. And I used to take it out into the field with me because it got such good quality results. Like I said, the only issue is the 8-bit. The other issue is that, you know, no IBIS, so that's a bit of a downside, but a great upgrade for anybody who wants to get a decent camera, the Sony a6400. So this is the Sony a6400, and color science is spot on, and like I said, you can get in there with your zoom, so you can do stuff a little bit further away, and that changes your focal length. Apparently 80mm is the best way to see the human face. Are we looking the best? APS-C size camera sensors. Crop factor, yes, it's annoying. Stabilization, not that great. In fact, let me just do a quick walk to show you. So this is stabilization on the Sony a6400. Not the best, it's probably a little bit bouncy, a little bit shaky, but I've got an external microphone and I usually lock this thing off on a tripod. It's not going to be the type of camera you can walk and talk with that much. You know, if you stop, and say what you need to say, it's a little bit better. So if I just sort of stopped and said, okay, don't move much, this is the perfect lens for you. Is my hand shaking? Even though the lens has IBIS in it, optical steady shot in the lens, it doesn't seem to help with this camera for some reason. But the image quality, man, is fantastic. This is why Sony, in my view, is leading the pack. Leave a comment. What do you think about all the different camera systems? The APS-C is pretty good. You know, there's DJI Pocket 2s. Will you spend your hard-earned money and go right to the top? I know some of you are saving for this camera already. I'm still paying it off, so maybe you can send me some extra money. But let me know what you think in the comments. Are you happy to buy a cheap camera and put up with the reliability issues as I discussed before? Or do you want to go somewhere in the middle with that DJI Pocket? The Osmo Action's pretty good. You can go to that one step higher and start investing into the Sony a7S III or whatever. You need the money. It's not a cheap camera, let me tell you. But I mean, yes, that's what we're talking about. The Sony a7S III, a great camera, and you can pair it up with some cheaper lenses like the Tamron. Cheap, nothing's cheap these days, but yeah, it's a good camera system. Can't complain. Let me know in the comments and leave a like. I always forget to ask people to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, that is, of course. And if you haven't subscribed, maybe you can do that. You know, what does a subscriber mean anyway? They don't watch your videos. Pesky subscribers. See you again next time.